Okay, so hello and welcome back to Sonic TV, I'm Andrew Weir, and today on Blender 2.64 I wanted to make some low poly shapes. So that includes these Russian dolls, or just one of them since they're all the same, and this crate. I'm going to start with the crate first. I was really going to make three objects, one of them being a laptop, but I figured you got all the techniques from here, so when making objects in low poly, follow these techniques and you should be okay. And so let's get straight over to Blender. New scene, here it is. And yeah, we're starting with the crate, so we can start with the cube here, we can scale it on the x-axis. However long you want it is kind of up to you, but I think that kind of looks good to me, so about that. And that was just scaling on the x-axis. I'm going to change to screencast keys so that you can see what I'm doing. And when we actually get to the more complicated stuff, we're going to learn a lot of different buttons to press to do different things, so you know you're going to need to remember them when you're doing all this as well. So that's why I've got screencast keys on, and everything will just appear down in the bottom left. And so we can go straight into edit mode. It's going to be quite a long video, so you know there's no point in me making explaining completely everything. I'm hoping you know quite a lot of stuff already, and we'll do what we can right now. So that was Alt-R that I pressed there, when actually I had Control-R for ring loops. We want to add 2 ring loops in the middle there, and then scale that up on the Z-axis. The reason for doing that is because if we go into face select mode, just down here, we can see that distance between the Z-axis there and that distance between the Z-axis there are the same, and it's exactly the same all the way around, just like it is with this shape here. So we're also going to want to select them all the way around, like that. And so from here we're going to want to extrude. E for extrude, and click it off straight away, right click it and it will return right back to the position, even if, say if I undid that, if I extrude, I move it away by accident, even if it's all the way over there, and I right click, it'll take it back to that position there. And so we're going to need to scale this up, but again, if I just scale this up, we don't quite get what we want. I mean, it's scaling on the Z-axis as well. So let's scale it up by pressing Shift Z, and then it'll make sure that it doesn't scale on the Z-axis, and only the Z-axis is. And then while we're also scaling it, we can see that the Y-axis isn't scaling as much because of the shape of the shape, and so we're going to need to scale on the Y-axis just a little bit more. And you can always go back on the video if I've gone through it a little bit too quick, but as I say, got a lot to do, so it's going to be quite quick going through of some low poly techniques. And so, from this point, I think we can get round to these straps here. So we're going to go to those straps first. We're going to look at how to add some studs, low poly studs of course, and this little part here, as well as the handle, and that'll be the full tutorial done. And I kind of think that we should, to make it this shape as low poly as possible, we need to do something a little bit like this. So we're going to add 2 ring loops, and this is adding the strap, so we're going to add 2 ring loops to the actual shape that we've got. We're going to want to scale them in on the x-axis, and whatever size you make that will be the size of your belt type thing, and you want to drag that into position. So roughly there, looks good for me. And then you want to press Shift D for duplicate, and then P, which will separate the selection. And if you can't remember any of this stuff, you can just press spacebar and then search it, so separate, and then it tells you that it's P anyway on the side there. So that's how that's done. And then of course if we're making it low poly, we've got 2 shapes here, one of them being this one and one of them being this one, and within this shape, the big one, we still have those two lines along there, which in low poly we don't really want. So the way to get rid of that, we're going to add another ring loop roughly in the middle. So I'm going to line it up with the y-axis there, and then we can also see that it's gone a bit askew from the center. So let's scale this on the x-axis, and that whole shape should go inwards. If you scale it all the way in, it should become a completely straight line. Obviously a quick technique, and it's quite easy too. And so from this point I'm going to want to go into the wireframe, go into the front view, press 5 to remove the perspective, and go into vertex mode, and then I'm going to delete those vertices. And we can see that I've still got that shape there, so what we're going to need to do now is go to edit mode, object mode even, and grab that on the, then go into edit mode on that shape actually, because you can see that the point is still in the middle there. We actually want it to be the middle of this shape, so let's drag that to the middle of this shape, taking it roughly there. Then go into object mode, and then that point there will also in object mode move with it, which is what we want. And then move that into the position where you want it, and we're going to want to edit it in edit mode for a little bit. So let's go into wireframe, and let's just select the top there. We're obviously going to want to move it just off the surface a little bit, not too much, but just noticeable enough. Same for these points here, grab them downwards, and the same for these points, but not necessarily for these points, because the bottom here, if we go to into face select mode, we can select all three of these and actually just remove the faces, because we don't actually need to see them. No one's going to look underneath this crate, and so far to make it low poly we're not going to need them, so no point having them. And so from here we're going to need to also move it on the, press 3 to go into the side view, wireframe again, and we're also going to need to grab, if I just deselect everything, we're going to need to grab that one as well as that this one here, and scale them on the x or the y axis even. So pull them off the surface just a little bit. Same with those two there, so scale them on the y axis, just pull them outwards. And then finally we want the same for those two, so scale them on the y axis to pull them off the surface, just so they look like they're actually there. And then just to make a little difference here, I'm going to add a new material, and I'm going to assign it to this shape. So let's go to making it a little bit darker, and I'm going to need to assign this to this shape. So go to edit mode and select assign when you've got the whole thing selected, making that shape just a little bit darker, and then we can see the whole difference there. And again, I mean, I'm already 9 minutes into this video and we're not even like halfway through the shape, so that's why I'm going through everything really quickly, and you can go back to it later if you didn't catch some stuff. And so next thing is to mirror the shape. So we're going to want to rejoin these with Control J, and then go into edit mode, and we can do this from edit mode. Go into the modifiers and add a mirror. Then we're going to want to select the whole thing, also check clipping, and we're going to move it on the x-axis until it's back together. And then because you've got clipping selected, once you put it together, when you let go, if you want to pull it out now, it will infinitely stretch back to the middle, which is good. So make it back to a length that you want, I'm going to bring it in roughly like that. I'm also going to take it out of perspective, into perspective even, so that we can see the shape a little bit better. And so that's looking okay to me. I think that I will also grab this here and just press Shift D to duplicate. Move that inwards, like, you know, want it to be quite thin. Move it in like that, and then get edge select mode, select that edge, move that downwards, because if we look at the real shape, we can see that it doesn't, you know, doesn't take up the whole shape's back, so that's okay. Take that inwards, and same down here. So let's go down there and pull that upwards. So, I mean, you can give these better materials if you want to. I'm just giving them basic materials just so you can see the difference. Let's go into object mode, and you can see this coming along a lot better. Final thing to add would be the studs. So let's go ahead and add a cube, and if you're looking at the shape here, we can see that that's actual circles, but it's probably best to not bother with circles, and we can just go into edit mode, go into vertex mode, reconnect these by pressing Alt M to merge at the center, bring that down, select the whole shape, and just get that little point there in the middle of this shape, and scale it down. I'm going to bring mine up a little bit more so that little point's more central. And then from object mode we can rotate this on the x-axis by -90. I accidentally did by 90 last time I did this, and so I know that -90 is that way. Scale this down even more, and we're just going to have some square ones instead of circles, because nobody's going to notice too much that, you know, well, it's going to have basic studs. So get this into the right position. It doesn't have to be like exactly touching, but it's probably easier if it is, because once people see that it's actually not connected, they obviously will see that it's less realistic. I'm going to pull that up on the z-axis a little bit, Shift D to duplicate, and then select them both, Shift D, bring some down here. You can obviously add more if you want to. I'm going to keep it with that many right now, and I'm also going to press Shift D and put some on the scale it on the y-axis by -1, which will flip them around. Go into the side view. I'm just going to bring some out about there, meaning we've got it on both sides. And then from this point you can select the whole thing, so them as well, and we make sure we've got them all selected and press Ctrl J, which should join them all back together. We're going to need to reapply the modifier of the mirror, so add that back, and we're also going to need to move it on the x-axis. So let's see, select the whole thing, move it until it gets to the roughly where you want, recheck clipping once you've got it in that right position, and then bring it back. And that is pretty much almost done. Final thing to add would be the handle on the side there, and making it so that it can actually open. So I'll do the make it open first. So let's go to the front view. Let's go into wireframe, deselect it all, and just grab the top there. Then you can actually press Y, and that'll completely disconnect it so that you can grab it on the axis upwards. And we're also going to need to go into face select mode where we can delete these faces here. So delete the faces. But then if you're looking into the shape, you're obviously going to see that there's nothing there. So we're going to need to add a few more of it, another face even, on the inner part. So press F here. And from there, if I just reselect the top here, we can pull that down, and the way that's actually probably going to open would be if we rotate it on the x-axis and then just move it up. It's probably going to open like that, and nobody's going to notice that there are no real hinges there. I mean, you can add hinges if you want, but nobody's actually going to notice if they exist there or not, so that's probably okay. And final thing, once it opens like that, you're going to be able to see inside the shape, which isn't what we want. So we're going to have to select the right vertices here and add a final face before we get around to the handle. So that's looking okay to me. That's pretty much how that's going to be done. And from here, we can add the handle, which is going to be very easy if we just cheat by adding the mesh here on the bottom select of what you've got on the mesh selections here, right down at the bottom. And then if we scroll down this little side menu here, we can change the major segments down to a very low amount, less than that probably, but I'll change the minor segments also down to like that, just as long as you can see that it's actually rounded. And then I'm actually going to add maybe 7. 7 seems good to me. And then if you scale it down now, you'll notice that the whole menu there changes because it's gone to a resize, and you won't actually be able to get that back as far as I'm aware. So that's why you got to do that all straight away. Then we can rotate on the y-axis by -90 or 90, and that's not actually going to matter. Scale it down. Even add a just quick plane. Rotate that on the y-axis by, this one's got to be 90, just so we make sure the normals are right. And so if we scale that on the x-axis, I mean y-axis even, this is the very final touch. Scale this on the z-axis, and then quickly go into edit mode, extrude this on the z-axis, x-axis even. Delete the face on the other side that we're not going to be able to see. Move it just so it's not inside there. Select both of these, Control J, then move it towards our shape. That looks okay to me. I'm also going to go into edit mode and press, oh, I've already got it selected, which is good, but if you didn't, just select a little part of it and then press Control L to select linked. I'm going to rotate that on the y-axis as a final touch, just to make it look like it's a little bit more connected than just straight down. And of course we're going to need to rejoin them, and that'll mirror it. So let's go into object mode, Control J to join them. Straight away they're rejoined, and we can go into edit mode, Control J as, not Control J even, Control L to select linked, and we want to actually get just this part here. Go into materials, go into the darker material and assign it. The darker material is kind of our metal, and maybe you want a different metal for the studs. And this shape is finally complete, I think. So if you want to make these handles as a separate object, you could separate them and then go into smooth shading, and nobody's going to mention, no one's going to notice that it's really not that rounded. And as for this box, you might want it in flat shading. And once it's rendered, let's just see what it looks like. We'll take the camera around to a better angle here, so let's grab that. Rotate on the z-axis by -90. Oops, nope, let's rotate on the z-axis by 90. And render. We can see that's looking quite good. Obviously, still needs a little bit more work, but I think we've learnt enough there to get it looking quite well. And in another video tomorrow, I'll show the Russian doll, because this video has obviously taken quite a long time. And so that is a low poly chest, suitable for a game. And so I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you in the next video.